Alright, here's the 411, folks. Say some gangsta is dissing your fly girl. You just give him one of these.
Reading games are something that I've always had a bit of a casual interest in. They are a fun way to pass the time and can be very rewarding if you're willing to put in the time to practice. Man, I remember having a phase where I would just spend hours trying to get songs down in Oz. Some games try to spice it up by adding other mechanics on top, which I think can make for a more engaging experience than just pressing buttons to the beat. Today's game is one such case, Yoiyami Dancers Twilight Danmaku Dancers, made by artist Rokuko Daisuke and composer/programmer Tripper. A game about fairies and dancing. And Rumia, who might as well be a fairy at this point, I'd been wanting to play it in its full state ever since trying out the demo. That was all in Japanese, so I couldn't really understand what was going on at the time. But I loved the cute and charming visual style and the catchy arrangements of Touhou music that it included. Well, it got a release on Steam recently, with a full English translation and some new content, so I figured it was a good time to go back to it and see what I had been missing. Summer is here, the fairies are full of energy, and everyone feels like dancing all day for some reason. That's really the very simple premise of this game. So moving on to the real meat. Here every action is tied to the beat of the music. Moving your character, attacking, and even the bullets flying across the screen towards their fated encounter with you. Kinda reminds me of Crypt of the Necrodancer, except this is obviously more faithful to Touhou's shooter style. Movement is restricted to a 5x5 grid, and if you move against the edges, Rumia does a little dance. 10 out of 10, amazing, game of the year. There's a grace mechanic. This is a Touhou Fangame, there's gonna be a grace mechanic, which temporarily increases your attack aside from the usual method of collecting power items. Most of the time I found myself hugging the wall though, since you need to move forward to attack, but you can rack up insane amounts of attack bonuses if you're willing to take advantage of grazing. There's also some unique items with different effects that help out Rumia in her journey. The Classic Bomb for a quick screen clear, Alice's Shanghai Doll to cover more ground, or a shady contract that gives you power at a price. You know, the usual. She can only hold one at a time though, but there are many chances to get a new one throughout the stages. You could also just ignore them if you wanted to, I mean. The game even makes that easier for you later on, so you can solely rely on your dancing skills. Rumia's side involves getting to the bottom of this whole dancing incident, challenging whoever she encounters to a Danmaku dance battle, which is like a regular Danmaku battle, but, you know, more of this. There are 4 stages, each featuring its own boss fight that brings something new to the table. Reimu fulfills her role as a tutorial boss and helps cement the basic mechanics of the game. Also gets deprived of food again. The next stage features Marisa, who encourages grazing by having attacks with much higher bullet density. And Master Spark, can't forget about that. Both her and Reimu notice that Rumia is looking more lively than usual, but in true Touhou fashion they decide not to worry about it. Promoted to stage 3 boss is Dayose. Ignore Cherno melting over there, this isn't about her. She starts using patterns that are a bit trickier to get through, but you can make her dance with Rumia during one of her attacks, so all is forgiven really. Some suspicious characters appear to have been watching the whole thing though, so of course we had to follow them. The last stage can be a bit of a mess, but it's considerably shorter and features the mastermind of this incident, which is of course... these two. As if I didn't have enough of them in their own game, they torment me in fangames too. Of course, being the last boss means they have the most complex attacks. Something neat about this fight though is that most of the patterns are built upon their single attacks that they use as mid-bosses in the same stage, and together they are as interesting to look at as they are intimidating. Yes, you do fight them both at the same time, but thankfully the game has some mercy and lets them both share a health bar. But they do dance together, so all is for... No, this one took me a while. Once they are defeated, Ogina shows up to take her daughters back home, and Rumia is rewarded with the thing most important to her. All's well that ends well. So, while it starts as a fun, relaxing reading game, it can get intense very quickly as you try to pay attention to many things at once while keeping to the beat. Balancing attacking and dodging, collecting power, and just generally being aware of your surroundings is key to surviving the stages. Especially later in the game where some bullets start going at different speeds, needing you to plan your movements ahead of time. Or just avoid them entirely when possible, that's also a choice. Everything said, the game has a few ways of lending you a hand, from an item that reduces damage, to offering a variety of power-ups if you die one too many times. There's even a practice mode that helps with getting the patterns down, though it only covers the boss fights. It's almost like learning the choreography to all these different dances. Notice I said Rumia side earlier, because there is a second playable character with her own story and some different mechanics. Eternity is out on a quest to recover her stolen collection of power items. What, you don't have one of those too? Instead of Rumia's items, she has a flower that loops through different effects as you collect power, and it's used to raise attack and HP, as well as switching and upgrading different styles of charge attacks. Like Rumia though, she can also do a little dance, this is important. As you can imagine, adding this bit of micromanagement makes the game a bit more hectic, since now you also have to keep in mind which upgrade you're going for. Not to mention her path is slightly harder by default, though honestly I found her stages to be more creative and make better use of the available space, like with enemies going into your field and forcing you to move around more. That's right, we're not just playing through the same stages again, rather a whole set of 4 new ones. And Trina finally gets her time in the spotlight. She's very quickly left behind though. The 3 Fairies of Light show up next, carrying a totally not suspicious bag. It's later revealed to be a collection of power items, but not Eternity's collection. I guess this is just a popular hobby in this version of Kensokyo. Actually, could explain why everyone drops these things in the first place. Anyways, you briefly fight them all at once, but once again they share health. A neat thing is you can get any of the 3 for their second attack, and each one is unique based on their spell cards. Even the music changes to match their own personal theme, which I really wish I could show here. Always been a big fan when games pull off the whole dynamic music thing. Next up is... oh no.
Oh man! Oh god! Oh man! Oh god! Oh man!
Actually, Clown Piece is not that bad. The mix of her theme is the fastest in the game and is very silly, aptly titled Clown Piece's most hectic day ever, but her attacks are fairly easy to compensate. However, I would be lying if I said seeing the stripes again didn't trigger a strong response in me. She's so gone that halfway through the fight she starts cheerleading. And Fairies on Moons, with bombs. Once Peace is back to normal, Eternity goes through a door in her back and arrives at the landed back door. You know what's coming next. Okina is of course the big bad of this route, the only one who would have the audacity to steal all of poor little Eternity's items. It's also a nice callback to the implied rivalry between these two. She has the only attack in the game with a turn limit, and if beaten within that limit, she awards you with a whole bunch of healing and power items. After that, she increases the size of the field to a 7x7 grid, so you know it's about to get interesting. Though honestly it ends up making things a bit easier since you have more room to move around, but hey, it's all about sending a message. Because about midway through the fight, she throws the damn wheelchair at you.
To that corner ring! Oh my god! Giant!
Now this turns into an endurance round, with bullets all over the screen at varying speeds, even bringing out the lasers for the last attack. But after not tanking all my HP, Okina finally goes down, Eternity gets her power items back, turns out it was these 3 who stole it, and everything goes back to normal. Presumably. Well, that's all there is to the main game really, but there are a few neat extras to check out. Remember the practice mode from earlier? It's available for Eternity as well, and both characters can earn medals by defeating their respective bosses while completing certain objectives. To top it off, there is a boss rush, with a fun short story to go with it. Also, I normally wouldn't talk about achievements, but these are just so charming. They are such a nice showcase of the game's vibrant art. Really, just being able to see the pictures was enough of an incentive to do some of these. Each one also has some lines of dialogue with the characters talking about it. Finally, there's the music room where you can listen to all the tracks in the game, which by the way, the soundtrack is amazing. Every song is a really good reimagining of the original themes, and they fit the mood of both the game and the stages really well. Each song also has a brief commentary from the composer, which is always interesting to read. There's even one hinting that there might be more to come in the future, so I'll definitely be on the lookout for that. So all in all, it's a really fun short game with a surprisingly high skill ceiling. Really, my only complaint would be that I was hoping the songs would have more rhythmic variation, but that's a really minor complaint. And honestly, thinking about it, that sounds like a hellish idea. I had a really good time playing through it, going for some of the challenges it offers, and of course, just seeing Rumia dance with her friends. Man, it just makes me want more quirky Touhou rhythm games really. This is such a good concept and I feel like there's a lot that can be done with it. Anyways, that's gonna be my piece for now. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next stream.